News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com, where we've got myself, Josh McQuistion. I'm Carrie Murdoch, Josh McQuistion, Eddie Radosevich, and George Stoya on the program today. So welcome. A lot of stuff going on. Gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the rain, but not the. I hope you survived the weather over the weekend. I, really feel terrible for those folks in Sulphur and Marietta and Holdenville. Just some devastation in our state this week. But thoughts and prayers out to all you guys out there that are dealing with that, and thankful for the people that have been out there really helping. So it is that time of the year, tornado season. We're starting to see it more and more. We got a little bit of a close call in Norman. I don't know how much that was on. I guess Max Westheimer, the airport, got some damage. I saw over by Homeland at Robinson and 24th had a little bit of damage. So nothing like Marietta, though, and nothing like Sulphur. So anyway, hope everybody is doing well out there. A lot of stuff going on in the portal world as well. But by the way, I have to ask a question, just a personal question, because I'm getting a lot of varying opinion. Josh, I don't know how big you are into, like, you and Tiffany, do you get into a lot of TV series, like on Amazon and things?
I love them. Tiffany rarely ever watches TV anymore. She reads books and just kind of hangs out.
I think George is a big Amazon watcher guy, but probably more movies.
I have watched the new Fallout series.
That's what I wanted to ask about. Like,
I haven't watched it in completion, but I have watched about half of it. It's very good. And I'm not someone that grew up playing the video game because it's based on the video game Fallout Boy or whatever it's called. And the video game I've heard is very fun, but it's a good show, good acting. Every episode's kind of fun. It's like a comedy drama type thing.
But it's just really good. Weird for some people.
Yeah, it is. It's very weird. There's gory scenes, but it's kind of like fake gory.
I've had another young that I work with in radio, and he says, "Do not start it. It is too messed up."
It's very messed up for sure, but I think it's good television. It's one of the better series that have come out, and the other good thing about it is apparently there's no season 2 coming, so it's just it's one season.
It's its own thing, and
it's its own thing. Yeah.
And Josh, you're watching it.
Yeah, no, I have watched it. It's awesome. I love it. I never at once was like, it was too weird or anything like that. Like, Walton Goggins, like, if he does something, I'm probably going to watch. Like, I just think he's really, really good, especially in a TV format. So
he's the guy from the Gemstones and doesn't have the
Gemstones, and he was in Justified.
It's definitely weird, but
he's really
there's a lot weirder stuff out there. Like this is
okay. Well, you've convinced me. I actually,
because it's kind of campy. Like it's not like intense, graphic, disgusting, or anything like that. It's just like it kind of laughs at itself a lot.
Right.
I think the last thing that I got into was what Eddie got me onto, which was Jack Ryan, which I never
Jack
actually
Ryan was
finished.
great.
Oh,
did you guys
Jack
finish
Ryan
it?
was awesome.
Yeah. You got to finish.
I think there was only 3 seasons though.
4.
So
I think
4 seasons. Yeah,
I think I
great.
was about to start the 4th, and football happened and life happened.
I still think the first season though might be the best season.
It is the best.
It's
season.
really good
for sure.
I enjoyed it immensely. Yeah,
but season 4 was really good too.
But it's kind of like the Thunder right now. It's like, when you first get into something, you have a little bit of innocence. Like when Jack Ryan first becomes an agent, and he's like, I'm not a field agent. And then all of a sudden he's, face to face with somebody with a gun that, a terrorist or whatever. And like the Thunder.
A 5th year at Columbia.
Yeah.
That's Jack Ryan season 5. He kills all the nerds at Columbia.
He helps put the American flags back on all the poles.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd want to be in it.
No, but Eddie, that's the first thing that Eddie actually got excited about. I was like, I got to watch this, and I really enjoyed it.
It's a really good show.
Okay, so look, we've got all kinds of stuff going on in the football world. I think I want to give George some credit here. He's been working his ass off. You have been on top of the Damonic Williams stuff, and it's really just been a thing like, hey, will you check on this for me? And you don't need me, but it's been fun kind of working with you to verify this and that, and I feel some sympathy toward you because it's such a big story, and it is kind of one of those things where you question, am I on the right track? Am I being misled? Because I think even the people, this is one of those things when even the coaching staffs that are involved, the people that are involved at Texas, at LSU, at Oklahoma, I think they're all wondering, like, what's really going on.
I've been wondering that for 2 weeks now, trying to follow this, and I've talked to everybody that's involved in this situation, and it's trying to decipher like Morse code, and there's all these I think smoke screens, or maybe they're not smoke screens, and so just trying to.
Are you being trolled? At some point,
so,
yeah.
And you're wondering, you see the reports coming out of Texas and LSU and even Missouri, and everybody, all these reporters saying, well, Texas feels great and they're in the lead, and now LSU's in the lead and Missouri's in the hunt, and it's like, well, that's just not the same stuff that I've been hearing. Like I've heard that Oklahoma has been clearly, in this thing from the beginning, and I still think, as we sit here at 12:25 p.m. on Wednesday, that OU's got a chance. Now, Damonic Williams is currently still in Baton Rouge. He has a flight at 3 p.m. to fly back to the DFW area where he's supposed to consider all of his options tonight and make a decision sometime Thursday. If you told me that he ended up staying in Baton Rouge and committing today, that also would not surprise me. LSU's making a very serious run at him. They were supposed to fly out at noon. Now they're flying out at 3. That's never a good thing for your chances when the kid stays longer. But at the same time, if he does get on that flight and goes back to Dallas, I expect OU to have a very good chance at maybe being able to close this deal. And I know that we've all talked to folks that maybe OU goes down and tries to, have some sort of in-home visit, or at least talk to him before he makes a decision, give one final pitch, whatever that looks like. I just think that the one thing I would say is everyone thinks they know what's going on. I would tell you no one knows. There's a lot that's going into this. There's a lot of people within Williams's group that have certain opinions of certain schools, of where they would like for him to go. And it comes down to who is making the decision. Is Damonic making the decision? Because that's the one thing, is I kind of know what everybody likes in his group, which schools they like. I honestly have no idea what Damonic wants, to be completely blunt.
Because he's not the guy that is
talking to people.
Yeah.
I've talked to him one time, and he's like any recruit that you talk to. Oh, I love the visit. I love the family atmosphere.
There's positives about every place that I'm looking at.
Yeah. It's the same answer for every school. Whereas you talk to other people, and it's different for each one. I will say that everybody in the party likes Oklahoma. That I would say that is very clear, that there is, and again, how much do you believe that? I think is the part that I've been trying to read.
I want to get to Oklahoma being in this with so much talk about how much NIL's being thrown around, yet they still seem to be squarely in the mix here. But first, I want to say this. I saw the video last night from Baton Rouge where they had the, it looked like, bottle service with a bunch of nerds, basically. They had his name up on lights. And I was so offended by family-style creme brulee, I just was beside myself. Like, what the hell is that? Like, fucking family-style creme brulee. Like, that's the worst idea ever. Like, a creme brulee is great because it's a little small thing that you have your own little thing to crack. Like, if you family-style creme brulee, like, you don't even get the hard outside shell on the top. You're not guaranteed any of that. That's a terrible idea. What idiot came up with that idea?
Of all the places you could have gone,
I take my creme brulee very seriously. You used to go to Target and you could get the creme brulee, and they'd give you like a little blowtorch in it. And you like blowtorched your creme brulee. Yeah, this happened. Like, and I still have the ramekins.
Awesome.
I use them for salsa. But like they don't make those anymore. There was some magical time in the history of Target where like they were making stuff that could not have been profitable. It was like their own brand, like the Market Street or whatever that stuff was. But no,
I remember that.
I take my creme brulee very seriously. I don't get it very often, but I love it.
I almost showed that video to Tiffany, like we were discussing before. She doesn't care about any of that stuff, but that she would have had interest in. She's like, what? That's a giant creme brulee. Like that would have been up her alley in the OU content world.
Yeah, if you don't have to share it with people. And that's the purpose of the creme brulee. You don't have to share it. It's yours.
But to your point, though, that video was pretty cringy last night. But I don't think Damonic Williams is going to pick LSU based on the family style creme brulee or the lights and all that. I do think that LSU's got a strong chance because one, they're more desperate than anybody else in this race for defensive linemen, and two, I think Bo Davis has a very good relationship, and LSU was somebody that was Dominic's dream school, I think, coming out of high school, and so that is always plays a factor. But
can I ask you a mailbag question real quick?
Yes.
Would you say that Bo Davis has a better relationship with Cordell, his agent, air quotes, with Dominique, or with his mother?
Agent. But I think that Bo Davis has done a good job building a relationship there. It really feels like everybody likes LSU as well. I just think that him and Cordell do go back pretty far, and they're close.
What if the same question about Todd Bates?
Todd Bates has done a very good job, and I don't think, obviously, Todd Bates doesn't have as much of a prior relationship as Bo Davis maybe does, but I think Todd Bates has definitely won over a lot of people in the circle.
Well, and what I said, before we bitched ridiculously about the creme brulee, there's talk that there's a lot of money on the table here.
And I think OU, I know there's a lot. Everybody wants to point to the narrative. OU doesn't want to
won't compete,
right? And if OU doesn't land Damonic Williams, I just don't think it was an NIL situation. Like I from everything I have heard, the money is right on OU's end, and it continues to be right. And if it wasn't,
they're willing to be in the game.
And if it wasn't, I don't think Damonic Williams would continue to talk to Oklahoma, and neither would his agent.
I think that thing's always going to be out there, though, right? Like, that narrative is always going to be out there until Oklahoma can start landing a couple of these guys.
It's out there because of Caden Green.
Yeah, but I get it, and I understand where people are coming from when, I think that anything that you put out on social media or on the message boards, I mean, it's probably 5-to-1 post in terms of people that actually believe what's going on, whether it be true or not. And I think that, Oklahoma's just going to have to win a couple of these races before it starts getting a little bit more real that people actually believe they're going to be in, and actually able to win some of these battles. Because I said the same thing this morning. Like, I think it's been, and we've talked about this, George, just in terms of being around here at the office and stuff the last couple of days, that it seems like there is a narrative out there that Oklahoma's not even in this to a certain extent.
Yeah, I don't know where that started because I know for a fact they are in this. And if they weren't, we would know by now if they were. I mean, he visited almost 2 weeks ago now.
Well, and talk about the Todd Bates visit angle that we've kind of been.
That he's planning to maybe go down and visit him.
From a timeline perspective, though, we thought that might happen today. It sounds with them getting out of Baton Rouge a little bit later. You hope, like timeline wise, you hope he gets on the plane at 3. And then that would open up the ability to visit tomorrow
or late tonight.
Today, right?
Whenever.
Right. The commitment was supposed to be today, and that's got pushed back. And I think that part of that is because they know Oklahoma and
still
possibly
Texas.
Have a word. I think Texas would also like to have a word. Are trying to push these last 24 hours and get one last word in. I think LSU also knows that, and that's why they're like, hey, why don't you stay a little bit longer and see if they can't get him to maybe never leave. So there's a lot at play here, man. And I think that at the end of the day, it's what does Dominic really want? And if LSU really is his dream school, he camped there out of high school. I think he wanted to go there out of high school, was never really offered. There was a different coaching staff then it wouldn't shock me if he ends up at LSU. I know Texas has thrown a lot of money at him. I think Texas is still somewhat in this race, but there's just a lot going back to Oklahoma and the relationship he built on that first visit that can't be denied, and that's why I do think that they're still squarely in this.
Look, the Damonic Williams situation, we're looking at it from all angles. You could say that we're trying to give you a fresh perspective on the recruitment of Damonic Williams, just like Enjoy Vision gives you a fresh perspective on your vision when you go and see him.
Yeah, absolutely. Have I ever told you guys about him? This might be the first time. Enjoy Vision Center is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City. It's not even close. Combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What they're doing for the Unofficial 40 listener, they're giving $400 off LASIK. All you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter NJOY with me.com. Use promo code U40. $400 off LASIK. Sounds like a pretty good deal. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
Okay, and let me back to Damonic Williams. We have to kind of monitor like Facebook pages, and as I'm sitting here and we're talking about it, I saw one post show up on one of the Facebook pages we manage.
I'm sure this is going to be good.
Sick of NIL, sick of all the transfer portal. College sports is in ruins.
All right. Well, I mean, if that's going to be the take there, I got some bad news. I got some really, really bad news. There's no turning back. I don't think that they're going to go back to probably what you would prefer, an all-white team in the 60s. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, here's the thing, and for people like this that say they're disgusted, they hate it, it's ruining college football.
All said that it is gross. It's a little gross.
Here's the thing, though. I think people need to appreciate that Oklahoma is in this game. That they have, and if you listen to Brent when he first got here, we talked about this before. I'm not saying Brent has lost his moral center or anything. I'm just saying. They know what's happening out there. They know what other schools are doing, and they've kind of come together, whether it's the Crimson Cream Collective, whether it's Brent Venables, whether it's Curtis Lofton's Soul Mission, personnel departments, whatever. They've said, look, we have to be in this game. All you have to do is look at the basketball program to see how badly this can go if you're not on top of it. And OU is currently in the running for the biggest transfer portal prospect of this transfer portal season. So they're
certainly on the defensive line.
On the defensive line, sure. The position that they need. So what I'm saying is give them some credit. Like give this coaching staff, this administration, the Crimson and Cream Collective, like give them some credit and that they are figuring this out and putting themselves in position to sign guys like this.
To a certain extent, I think people should be encouraged by it. It should be exciting that this is kind of what people have been, I think, clamoring for the last 2-3 years since you found out about the SEC move, was that you're going to have to get better. You're going to have to take a little bit of a step up, and maybe some uncomfortable, moments are going to happen to get to the final endpoint of recruiting with the big boys, playing with the big boys, and getting the guys that it can be truly difference makers going not just into the SEC as a whole, but on the field next season.
They still got to land him.
No, sure.
They
100%.
And even if, and I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, well, even if they don't land him, it's okay. I do think there is part of me, though, that's like they can live without Damonic. Damonic Williams obviously raises the ceiling, and he's a great player, and he would really help them out. But I also do think that they have done well already on the defensive line. They've got some guys that you really like. There are backup options prepared that they've started to contact. The kid from Grand Valley State, Javier Suggs, is somebody that has certainly been one that they're in contact with and have made an offer. But yeah, I mean, you'd like for them to go ahead and win this just so people can stop with that narrative.
Well, and Eddie, like you said, like I can go to the YouTube comments and pull up plenty of the narrative of, well, OU's not willing to play the game, or they're not willing to pay what it takes to sign some of these guys.
I think that we know enough now that anybody that says something like that is just a little bit uneducated, and maybe we haven't done a good enough job just in terms of throwing it all out there with what Oklahoma is actually doing, or the lengths that Oklahoma's going to.
Well, and to be fair, like George has uncovered a lot of stuff in the last 2 weeks on this, to where we can arrive at this position where we're saying OU is playing the game the right way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's been, to a certain extent, I don't know if you guys would agree, but to a certain extent, it seems like they've been doing this for the last couple of years, and it's kind of a building up point to not just particularly the recruitment of Damonic Williams, but more so with what they've been able to do. I mean, just look at how we've talked about some of the guys that came in this spring from the freshman class in the 2025 class, or the 2024 class. I mean, you have to recruit well and bring really good players in. You're not doing that just because, I guess to a certain extent, just because guys want to come play for Oklahoma. I mean, obviously they do, but they're being incentivized to do so.
I think over the past year there has been a shift in the mindset from a lot of
I would agree.
the coaching staff in terms of how to use NIL, and I think you've seen that in the recruitments of a guy like David Stone, who you had to pay to get David Stone, a Jaden Jackson, Deion Burks in the portal this last winter. Like, there are examples.
People ignore that part of it,
right?
too.
And that doesn't mean they're going to go out and get every single player, and that doesn't mean they're going to get the Damonic Williams of the world every single time. But all of a sudden, they are in these battles, and they are able to land a good chunk of these guys. So I think that's the part that they're heading in the right direction.
And Josh, I think the one thing that we're learning out of this is you and I have been in this game for a long time, and agents or handlers, like, they've always been a dirty word. And I think we have to look at a lot of things in college football in general. Like, the dirty words aren't dirty anymore because people are throwing around money. Schools want to be able to pay money to players. Like, who would have thought we'd be in this position where the schools are trying to butt out the collective so they can be the ones that collect the money that goes to the players? Like, it's a different planet we're living on. And I think people have to wrap their minds around that just because a kid's got an agent or a handler, that's not a dirty word anymore. It's just something that you have to deal with. So whatever they're dealing with Damonic Williams, and I mean, what do we call him? His mentor, George? His agent? I mean, what is he?
Handler, agent. I mean, he's been close with the family for a long time, and I think there's been a lot of people that have just kind of shit on this guy,
vilified him,
and like I don't think that's the case. Like, I think he look, he's trying to get the best deal for his client. I mean, that's he's doing his job.
Yeah. But Josh, I think we have to almost retrain our brains as to, what's right, what's wrong in this day and age of college football.
Oh, absolutely, guys. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you guys have been talking about with the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff had to do that. Like, there was a feeling of like, oh, this is bad and we don't want to do this, and this, we want to do it on, the values of the, 1990s and 2000s. That's not the sport we're playing right now. That's not the way it is. So I think everybody kind of had to accept that. And I think fans, in a lot of cases, are the last ones to kind of accept that this is the way it's going to be. This is how it is. And I mean, that the reality is these guys can get paid. Money's part of it no more. That's not a bad thing. It's not something we have to pretend when you walk by a college parking lot for the players and see a bunch of tricked out Dodge Chargers. Like that's all okay now. We all can understand it. We all accept it. And I couldn't agree more with George that I think there has been an acceptance. I said it for a long time. I felt like OU was trying to tie their hand behind their back, like, in trying to be the moral compass of college football. And I'm like, there's no reason to do that. You're just making life harder. And guys, for me, the when I started to think that there was a shift, and you mentioned him a second ago, was Jaden Jackson. Because I know, talking to some people last year, there was a feeling amongst Texas and Ohio State that they were the teams competing. And then in the last 48 hours, I talked to one Texas source that was just like, OU made a better NIL offer than anybody else did. And I don't think anybody at the time would believe that. And I don't know that that's 100% factual, but I know they were 100% competing with two of the richest universities in the country.
I think, too, another point, and we can get into this, too, because we saw it happen last night, that, not only are they, doing the NIL game and have kind of changed their perspective on that, they're processing people. And I know that the first year under Venables, it was kind of everybody's got 1 year, and we saw a little bit more processing, but it's gotten to a point now where they are really saying, let's have the best 85 we can have. And we've talked a lot about moving some guys from, scholarship to these preferred walk-on NIL scholarships or whatever. But I think Gavin Freeman is somewhat an example of hey, the room was full. They have to cut down some limits, and Gavin was a casualty of that. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but you just look at the numbers in there, and he was obviously injured and didn't have a great finish to the season. I think he probably just needs a fresh start anyways. But
and I think sitting through the spring being injured, seeing Deion Burks emerge,
I just think
read
that
the writing on the wall a little bit.
You're seeing that, though, even with the Justin Harrington, I think is another example in terms of a guy that just kind of fell behind because of the injury and other guys stepping up and the bodies they have there. I just think that you're Josiah Wagner. I mean, all these guys that have entered the portal this spring are guys that you are in rooms that you're like, man, they really like the position they've got, and they're also trying to bring in bodies at other positions.
I wish the best for Gavin. I do
great
think
guy.
that's going to be a situation that you would hope that he goes to a place that he can get onto the field. And, I think
he can really help a team.
Yeah,
I really do.
I know that Kansas State has been an interesting name that was thrown out to me this morning, just in terms of I know that he had a really, really good relationship with Matt Wells, and obviously that goes all the way back to Matt Wells giving him the opportunity at Tech before he ended up not signing there, and Matt Wells got fired. So, either way, great family. I hope that I cheer for all the Oklahoma City kids. I know that there was a lot of people over at Heritage Hall that were pretty surprised that he entered the portal, just for the fact that we were getting down to kind of the final hour in terms of having to get your name into that, at the end of April. So it will be interesting to see where he turns out. But, just in terms of the bigger picture with like the staff, quote unquote, getting it or whatever we want to call it, it seems like at the end of the day, we often forget that Brent Venables is a very, very competitive person. And to think that he's not going to do everything in his ability to, whatever you want to call the roster, or have it prepared for what they're about to enter, and, somewhat be embarrassed like they were in the first year going 6-7. I don't know. Maybe sometimes we would just forget that at the end of the day, that these guys are very, very competitive people. They're not going to go out there to want to be, embarrassed by anybody moving forward.
Look, they know what's going on. They know they're going to the SEC. They know they have to be better.
Sure.
And I mean, Josh, you can speak to it. Like, defensive line, being willing to be in the, Damonic Williams sweepstakes, that's all about going to the SEC and surviving and competing at a level that you frankly have not competed at, and you weren't winning the Big 12. So the defense, we all have gone out there and seen it. We feel like it's a different world, and Brent's built that up quickly in 3 years. But Brent knows. He's played against those teams. He's won a national championship against Alabama. He knows what it takes. He had 4 first-round picks on his defensive line, for years at Clemson. So it's not a surprise to him. He knows better than anybody how much better this roster still needs to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And guys, that the thing that I think people should look at, of all that OU has really lost in the last couple of years, Hayden Green's the only one that stings. That's the only one that you say, man, that they didn't want that to happen. And we've dissected that enough.
Well, and here's the other thing about that, Josh. The other thing about that is, for all the bad that happened with Hayden Green, for everybody that still hasn't gotten over that changed something internally within this program. It made them look in the mirror and say, how are we screwing this up? How do we make it so this doesn't ever happen to us again?
Yep, I think that's a really good point. And what I will say, just kind of wrapping up here, is just when you look at those guys that left the first year under Brent Venables, they were going, or the guys that were kind of Riley leftovers. You had like UTEP, Texas State, a lot of they were clearly taking a step down in competition to try and go play. And those are guys, some of them that had been playing at Oklahoma to some level and to some importance. Now you've got a guy like Josiah Wagner who hadn't played, really any meaningful football at Oklahoma. He's going to a Power 5 school. He's going to go play in the ACC at Cal. Makes sense of that. But and then you've got Justin Harrington, another guy who's had a ton of injuries, ton of problems. He's going to go play at Washington. So there's I think it tells you how much deeper this roster currently is, that guys that can play Power 5 football and schools that want them are guys that Oklahoma just can't get on the field right now.
Okay, so you mentioned, George, that they're starting to look at maybe some other candidates at defensive line. Josh, bring you in here as well, but what are you looking at out there? What's out there that could be a possibility if they did take somebody else? I know we're talking about offensive tackle. We've seen some offensive linemen enter the last couple of days, but maybe not quite the a left tackle type guy. But what else sits out there on the horizon that OU might kind of nibble at a little bit?
Well, I know on the defensive line there's a handful of guys. You've got Javier Suggs, who was offered the other day, Grand Valley State, which is Division II, but you look at his offer list, Wisconsin, Michigan. I mean, there's some big-time programs that are looking at him. You've got this kid from Florida Atlantic, Decarius Harris. He's another guy that they have been in contact with. Aiden Huntington from Louisiana Monroe, another guy that's been super productive. I believe he's connected to obviously Zach Alley, who was the defensive coordinator there when he was there. He's a grad transfer, super productive out of Louisiana Monroe. And then the offensive line guys, the one that seems to be maybe an option, Isaiah Wright from Buffalo. He played left tackle there as well, center. And then the interesting one, we talked a little bit on the recruiting report yesterday on YouTube, Gino Van Denmark from Michigan State. But I haven't really heard much on the offensive line. I don't know if you have, Josh, but those are kind of the two names that I've heard.
You know, Van Denmark would make all the sense in the world because, I talked about it in the recruiting report. I thought he was the guy, one of the guys OU really wanted. Now, I do think there is something in the conversation that Babechi Nwewu. God, I still can't do it right.
Have a little respect for him. Pronounce his name correctly, please.
I know you get judgy about those things, Eddie.
Come on, Josh McQueen.
You wonder, has he been so good that they just say, that maybe that's not what we need? Now, to me, if you think he's a caliber player, okay, we're going to get him in and we'll move some guys around and see if we can, and we know Bill likes to tinker. So, I'm not ruling him out by any stretch, but I haven't heard the immediate groundswell that I kind of thought I would. But this Isaiah Wright guy, in the world of follow the follows, there's definitely been some interest from Oklahoma staff. We're kind of tracking that a little bit. I want to always give a little shout out to our guy Donnie Hazelwood, who helps us with some of that stuff. But those are the two that I'm really watching. I haven't heard anybody else that I think is strongly in play. And I just want to watch. I think, and George, to kind of throw it back to you, with the Suggs kid, I think everybody's immediate reaction based on, he's at LSU, and there was all that video going out last night with Damonic Williams, and then OU offered Suggs. It's like, they know they lost him. I don't think that's it at all.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's just, hey, they got to have a backup plan, and at some point you can't just wait forever for Damonic Williams. And if this thing really goes to Thursday and maybe even an extra day past that, then you're sitting in a really tough spot if you're still trying to take another defensive lineman. And so I think that was the thought process there. And maybe it's also putting Damonic Williams' feet to the fire a little bit. I don't know that for sure, but I think that it's just one of those situations where they're like, okay, we have to start maybe looking elsewhere. They're two different types of players. I mean, Suggs is not as big of a guy. I mean, he's only, I think, around 285, somewhere in there, but was super productive at Grand Valley State. And like I said, I know he's Division II, but he is a guy that has had a lot of different offers. So people like what they see on tape. And maybe he's not a starter, but maybe he could be somebody that you could put in your rotation. So again, I think they're looking to add another defensive tackle, but it's all kind of a wait and see on Damonic Williams before they just go all in on someone else.
Just to ask kind of a basic question that maybe some people out there might want to be asked. In terms of, we've always talked about one more interior defensive lineman. Is it a flat one? Over and a half, 1.5, I guess I would say. Is there a avenue that Oklahoma could add more than just one interior defensive tackle?
I think so.
But it'd have to be the right
It would have to be a right fit, and
maybe outside of offensive line too, because I know if something that were to fit there, that's something that they would definitely be interested in.
And
maybe it's a question that we don't know the answer to right now either.
I think that's part of it, and we also just don't know the numbers. The numbers have been so hard to keep a track. I know Josh has been trying to stay on top of it in terms of who's on scholarship and who's not.
And that's so because there's some guys that are currently on the team that are quote unquote on scholarship, but they're on an NIL scholarship, right? That's the way that we understand.
And we don't know who exactly is on that NIL scholarship, so it makes it hard to know OU has 2 spots to fill, or they have 1 spot to fill, or they have no spots to fill. That's the part that's been really difficult to track. So I think it just depends. I mean, this Suggs guy, maybe he's a a PWO, NIL guy. I know I mentioned that with the Chris Hardy kid from Jacksonville State. Maybe he would have been a PWO NIL guy. These guys though are different positions than say a Damonic Williams, who would probably be a nose tackle. You could maybe play him some at 3-tech with the DJ Terry or something like that. But these other guys, they're a little bit smaller, so they're not exactly the same type of player. So maybe if you could get one of those guys to come walk on, you do it. But you also still feel pretty good about the guys you have in that room, especially when you add Jermaine. How do you say his last name, Kerry? Jermaine
Lole, isn't it?
Lole, yeah.
Lole. You add him to the room. You like DJ Terry, obviously, David Stone, Jaden Jackson. The list goes on and on. So, and I think there's also a scenario where maybe they miss out on Damonic Williams, and maybe they don't like Suggs as much as they once did, or Suggs goes somewhere else. I don't think that you can rule out that they might just say, okay, we're content with what we got in the room.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great breakdown. Obviously, this stuff is changing all the time, but Thursday appears to be the day that we'll find something out with Damonic Williams, and Soonerscoop.com will keep you up to date with all the latest. So just keep checking in. And other portal entries, possible interest, that could change at any time. So just stay tuned to Soonerscoop.com. Follow us on Twitter at Soonerscoop or X, and we'll take care of you. By the way, really busy. I don't know, you guys in Oklahoma City, I don't know if life is busier for you guys because you have so much stuff going on with NBA right now and Thunder and just in general living it up. I mean,
just life. There's a lot going on in life.
Is that a girlfriend complaint?
No.
Okay. Good.
No, she's great.
But you got to go
pregnant,
out.
but great. And we congratulate you.
His mom
I'm just kidding.
is probably listening
I'm
to the podcast.
just kidding to the Stoya family.
Not pregnant. We have a lot of weddings to
We
attend,
would not
though.
do that to the
God,
Catholic
you are at
families.
wedding age. Thank God Eddie's finally out of wedding age. That took you about 10 years.
We're in remarried age.
I don't think we have.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Well, and the kids' birthdays and
Kids'
stuff. You got
birthday.
more of that coming.
I
doubt.
don't think we have a free weekend in June. It's just weddings.
Yeah, that's the way it
Jesus.
is. It's kind of fun though. You bitch about it, but at the same time, it's a fun time.
Because you get to see a lot of people
You
you
see-
know and you haven't caught up with.
Yeah,
in
a lot of people that you haven't seen in a couple years. Graduating college and all that kind of stuff.
Or
It
or
was
you're
for me,
going
at
and you don't
least.
know anyone there.
Yeah, that's true too.
But it's
Don't you
Those ones
think?
you don't go to, George.
Don't you think though social media has done a lot for people that you went to college with or high school?
Yeah, I think so.
So you just I've had enough of you. We don't really need to catch up because I see all your shit online. I know what you're up to. I still don't really like.
I think most people that I still follow and interact with, I follow them on. I talk to them daily. I guess
Okay.
I don't have a whole lot of people that I don't know that I still keep.
It's probably
up with.
Facebook friends.
Yeah, I don't get on Facebook very much.
Yeah.
I got on today and I
Same.
saw one of the I don't know, talking points or whatever was it's just got to the Facebook olds community that Kevin Durant wants to come back to Oklahoma City is how
God.
they're referring to it. And I got a chuckle out of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of entertaining at times. Well, the reason I'm asking is because we're all really busy, and with the Thunder, with playoffs. I mean, we're up late, and it's nice to have options to eat really quickly. And Factor can be that for you, stress-free, never frozen meals. They're chef-crafted, they're dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. And, man, they've got a great offer going on. I'm going to tell you about that here in just a second. But George and I have both been on the Factor stuff. Chef-prepared meals. You can get filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccoli. I like just their corn. They do up
corn
their
is
corn.
really good.
It's fantastic.
The corn, I like the rice too. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've had any of the rice with the chicken is really good. But I think my favorite part is the no fuss, no mess meals. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. That's the part that makes it really enjoyable for me. Is it's like you said, time is limited these days, and so when I can come home and
it's
just
like
throw it in
eating
the
at a
microwave,
restaurant. It's restaurant. It literally, it's as good as most restaurants that you're going to go to. So we want you to go to factormeals.com/Sooners50. Use the code Sooners50 to get 50% off your first box. Plus, special offer just for you guys out there listening, 20% off your next box. That's code Sooner50 at factormeals.com/Sooners50. You'll get 50% off your first box. plus another 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. So go check them out. George and I both very much approve. Appreciate him being part of the podcast. All right, Eddie, just say he has this big smirk on his face.
They could have
right
used
now.
Factor at 116th and Broadway last night in New York City. I mean, Factor could have been the sponsor of the Revolution. How about that?
I got to be honest with you. I don't know what happened at 160th and Broadway last
Columbia
night.
University.
Oh, okay.
Where those losers are trying to stay in the buildings and stuff.
Oh, and they're demanding that
they're
people bring
demanding
them food.
which was it's the greatest.
They're like, didn't you lock yourselves in there?
It's the greatest internet clip on the internet right now.
I do love how they're like, is anyone stopping you from bringing food? And they're like, well, no.
Yeah,
but we want to get ahead of this.
It's quite incredible. And especially the girl that was talking, check out her bio, what she was doing her thesis on. It's unbelievable that she's expecting to be taken seriously in this world.
All right. I'm glad you have something to entertain you. It's
amazing. Between baseball, basketball, and those losers up there, it's been an incredible week.
Okay, so we talked to Dylan Gabriel yesterday, by the way, and I've just released that on YouTube.
I saw that.
I'm not mad at you.
That's what I was looking at you earlier for. I was like, oh, it just dawned on me when we were talking about NIL
I put it up during
guys.
the pod. You can go check it out on YouTube. But, he came on. He wanted to talk about some charity stuff. He's getting the uniforms again for his high school team, which I'm sure now that he's at Oregon, like Phil Knight is going to really hook him up. There's probably going to be I want to see these uniforms. But it's really cool. We did get a chance to catch up to him. I mean, he has started something at Oklahoma that I think is going to continue for a long time, and that's the Dime Time Retreat. I don't know what Jackson's calling his, but he had a lot of really good things to say about Drake Stoops landing in L.A. With the Rams and Sean McVay, and we're going to have Walter Rouse on the Family Business on Thursday with Joe and Isaac. So he's going to be able to clap back a little bit at Dylan Gabriel. Apparently he was afraid to dive off of a cliff or something like that. So at their Dime Time Retreat last year. So go check that out. But good to catch up with Dylan yesterday. And, just a guy that still has you can tell has a lot of fond feelings for Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was purely I think a business decision, both on his part to leave as well as Oklahoma's decision to move on. And
didn't hurt to see Bo Nix drafted either, as high as he was.
Sure. I love DG. I think he's going to go down as one of my favorite guys that's been around. However everybody else out there views him in the quarterback position and all that kind of stuff, I truly think he's a really good guy. I hope nothing but the best success for him coming up this year at Oregon.
Josh, let me ask you, NFL draft, what did you think about the quarterbacks? I mean, I've talked about this quite a bit, like on the radio. Like, it is amazing. It's not amazing to me. It's just like when you see Brock Purdy become what he did as Mr. Irrelevant, I think you get these scouts with analytical people, and I think that all these GMs are now being advised, like, look, if you think a quarterback can help your team, even if he was a fourth-round guy or a third-round guy in the past, you have to take him as high as you possibly can. And I think that's what we're seeing. The overvaluation of quarterbacks by the NFL is the biggest change that we've seen in the draft maybe ever.
Well, I don't think it's an overvaluation. Like, I think if you don't have that position, you're lost. Like, I mean,
sure. Yeah.
To me, you've got to keep I'm one of those people, like, I always think of like Matt Millen years ago with Detroit when he took all the receivers in the first round. He kept taking Charles Rogers, Calvin Johnson, the whole thing, and the Lions fans just hated him.
Remember when the Timberwolves did that with guards, with point guards in the NBA draft?
Not really.
They took Ricky Rubio.
And
they
Sebastian
took that guy from Syracuse.
Yeah. Oh, God, what was his name? He was a good player in college. Jonathan Flynn. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
That's Bob's exactly in the other room, even though he's not on the pod, but he's still yelling things at us.
It's perfect.
With quarterback, to me, if you don't have that guy or think you've got that guy in your building, you draft one the next year. Like, and it may not always be a first rounder, but like, we're just going to keep taking bites at this until we find the guy that is our answer. And I think in the NFL model, right now, everybody has seen what you've got to do is get a young quarterback. So you've got him on that young rookie deal, and then you can build out around him. And I think it only matters more. Like this year is a little weird because everybody went in the top 12, but you want that 5th year of control. So you want that first round. First round can be more valuable than the second round guy. It's why the Panthers traded up and got Leggett at 32 when they probably would have been fine to get him at 33, just so they'd have that extra year of control. I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense? I don't know. But
you say young quarterback, though, but then the Falcons draft a 24-year-old to replace their $100 million quarterback they just signed.
Pick.
Now that I can't make sense of. I won't try to defend
with
that.
two bad knees, basically.
Especially a guy they surely somebody would have been interested in that pick and they could have traded down, right? Like somebody would have jumped a spot or two because they saw somebody they really wanted. I don't know, man. That's a weird pick to me. I'm one who likes Michael Penix. Like I thought he was kind of undervalued, but at 8, like you could have got him a little later in all likelihood. And if you were going to make him your guy, why are you signing Kirk Cousins to that contract? Like it doesn't add up to me.
I just think it's hilarious too that the Broncos are just putting all their eggs in the Bo Nix basket. Which
he had a bunch of football stuff in his backpack.
What?
There was a report out that Sean Payton fell in love with him when they brought him in for one of his interviews in Denver, and all he had in his backpack was stuff that pertains to football, like he had tape, a football, cleats, and something else. And I guess it just took Sean Payton. It blew him away.
I just think it's funny that everybody, at least in Denver, that I've seen is like Sean Payton this, Drew Brees that.
Quarterback
like he's going to be all. It's like man, that was 20 years ago that Drew Brees was like this. I mean, and don't get me wrong,
didn't Drew Brees land in his lap after he had surgery that people thought was going to end his career?
And Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer, but to be like, oh well, he's just going to do the same with Bo Nix. I don't know, man. Like I think Bo Nix is a nice player, and he was really good in college at times, but he was
good at
Oregon. He's got a lot of faults too to him. But to Josh's point, like I think if you're in the Broncos situation, you just got to take a guy, and just keep taking quarterbacks until one works out. But I also what they've done at quarterback is so strange. Like re-signing Jarrett Stidham, giving him a shot. You've got Zach Wilson now on the roster who's not been any good, and now you've got Bo Nix. It's like, what are they doing at quarterback?
It's like
George, I mean, that's the thing. You sent me the room. Like you sent this is what the room looks like, even with Nix, and you're like, they had to go quarterback. That room is horrible.
Yeah.
Is it a hot take to say I think Bo Nix will have a better career than Drake May?
I don't think it's a hot take.
I'm not a big Drake May guy.
I like Drake May. I think New England's going to be terrible the next couple of years. And I think that we learned the lesson the hard way with Sam. It's a lot of it is to do with where you're picked, where you go, and what they have around you. Yep. It just doesn't seem like New England has very much.
And that's what I was going to say is I think Bo Nix is maybe in a better situation. I just shit on Sean Payton, but I do think Sean Payton, is a good offensive coach. He's obviously very, well thought of offensively. He's got some weapons there. Marvin Mims is back, and he's going to be a bigger part of the offense. They drafted Oregon's leading wide receiver Trey Franklin to come in, which is surely going to help Bo a little bit. Cortland Sutton, I think that they're in a better spot where the Patriots, man, that's a big project that they've got going on there.
To me, it's not the draft as much as the quarterback situation that I find the most intriguing is what's going to happen in Pittsburgh. Because I think that Russell Wilson's going to lose his job by week 3. Maybe not 3, might be too soon, but
I think week 6 or 7.
I just think,
or they're going to go 9-8,
better
like they always do. The Steelers will. They also just don't have a ton of weapons in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
it's George Pickens, and that's about it.
I don't even want to mention Caleb Williams' name because it's
fascinating.
I think the Bears are going to be good.
On paper, the Bears could be good. Bob thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl. It is intriguing to me just when you look at Caleb Williams and what he is, both on the field and off the field even. He is a very polarizing person that no matter what he does, like for the first time in a long time, I'm kind of in on whatever that hype, whatever the
isn't he just
amount
of
celebrity is going to be.
He's the first Gen Z superstar athlete.
He might be, yeah.
The fingernail painting and the sensitivity and, like he's getting murdered so hard for just crying. Like I don't remember that happening before.
My dad is
to someone.
He told me the night that the Bears drafted him, he said he was out the moment that he saw him crying in his mom's arms. And I was like, I get it. I do get it.
That goes right along with NIL is ruining the sport.
Yeah, he might have some thoughts on that as well, particularly when it comes to Oklahoma's basketball portal existence. But at the same time, I saw a great tweet yesterday, and it's been in the news because of the Max Olson article that was in The Athletic yesterday. Shadir Sanders is the person off the field that everybody thinks Caleb Williams is. The soft, kind of a bitch of a teammate type of guy. I thought that was a great tweet, and I think I kind of agree with it.
Interesting.
There's stuff going on at Colorado right now, is just ridiculous. And then you've got
it's like Prime Pret 3.0.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everybody else's fault, but for the Sanders family, and I don't know, I kind of take pride in this idea that from the moment he was hired, there was a lot of people that go, it could be very successful. It could also go really, really bad. I think we're starting to see a little bit of the latter right now. We'll see. I said this morning on radio that I think when Shadir Sanders is done, so at the end of this year, don't be surprised when you start hearing inklings that Deion Sanders thinks he can get it done in the NFL, that he's ready to move on from Colorado, that he's not as invested in the Buffalo program as everybody thinks that he is. And he's been pretty adamant, or I guess it's apparent that he isn't very invested in that thing at all.
I just think it's funny because watching, I mean, I know some of the people in Colorado that, or at least follow some of the people in Colorado that cover them.
You came here from Denver.
Yes, and they are like, the narrative inside their bubble is like, why is everybody talking about Colorado and losing all these guys in the portal? Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, man, it's one thing to lose that many guys the first year under Deion, but they're doing it again this year. And some of the stuff that's coming out about the way players were treated, or like that they didn't care about certain guys, like, and they weren't very good last year. Like, I just don't like, this is not normal. And I don't want to talk
about like, we talk about all the time around here just about the way media is changing, and like we're trying to be on top of it and at the forefront and all of that. Like, Colorado has never really had that local media that's just, got a lot of, followers or a lot of readers or viewers. Like, it's either been, the newspapers in Colorado or the message boards in Colorado. And like, what's interesting to me now is like, you're seeing it, and I don't know how the whole thing is stacked up, but it's like Deion Sanders has won over all those local media people to the point where they're willing to fight people over him, like fight for his honor. With, like, I saw some guy, going at, it was somebody at On3, and he was like, I'm finally done hating On3. And I think it was I think it was a recruiting analyst. Do you remember seeing any of that, Josh?
No, I'm not. I'm missing something.
Anyway, but I've seen this over and over where it's like, you get these local media, and I guess I say that with air quotes, but I've never seen it like that where they're drawing sides with the public on the side of a head coach before. Like the fans.
I think we kind of did it just the opposite way when Riley left.
Yeah.
Like going after him and nobody really understanding from outside the bubble what was going on.
Good bit, though.
I mean, it really wasn't a bit.
I mean, we were pissed. And,
I think everybody should have been pissed the way that went down. That doesn't need to be rehashed. But, yeah, like I get what you're saying. I do understand, though, like from just the basis of taking over a program that was obviously awful and having to reinstill culture and all the buzz points that are usually, the buzz talking points that are usually brought up. But at the same time, he's doing it in a fashion that he's just being an asshole.
Well, that's the part that's like, it's hard for me to be like, man, how are you defending a guy that's just out here like just shitting on his former players. Like, there's no need for that to do that so publicly, like him and his son are. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just
that's
such
one of
a
the
bad
things
culture to set.
Is you saw media going after Cormani McClain after he said what he said, like, and they were taking Deion's side on the whole thing and shitting on the kid. Like, it's just bizarre to me. I've never seen that type of thing happen.
It's unfortunate, too, because Shadir Sanders is obviously very talented, and now you kind of come out the other side of this, Josh, and it's like, you know what? Like, I kind of want to see them not just fail, but do it miserably.
Yeah. I mean, guys, like, that's just so opposite of what you think of in a quarterback. Like, the leader of the face of your program, the leader of your program, like, he's going to do the right things and say the right things. And like him shitting on the kid that had the quote in The Athletic, like, why? What is that? What purpose does that serve? But, and talking about George, talking about the media is like, well, what's all the deal? I think so much of it is kind of what we keep seeing, because what keeps showing up on my timeline is like there's no better way to say it, the CU Buffs propaganda, that Denver Buffs or whatever it is. Like, it pops up on my timeline all the time, and it clearly is they're working out a deal where the more pro Colorado you are, the more access we're going to give you to the program. Like that's, and I know one of the guy that was saying Dylan Edwards wasn't interested in competition, is some guy apparently that Deion had with him at Jackson State and brought, and now he's basically pretending to be a unbiased media
state
member.
Media.
He's clearly, he's a shill, and that's fine. But don't act like you're something you're not. Like, you can be that guy, but trying to act like there's any, divide between that media member and the CU football program is not realistic.
All right, let's talk a little bit of recruiting, Josh. I mean, obviously, Houston, you've been around. I mean, hell, the OU coaches took a day where they went down. You had the Courtland Guillory commitment, and I know we talked about that on the recruiting report, but and really, I would say go watch that really good breakdown about defensive back recruiting and kind of where OU stands in there. We don't really have to rehash all that, but 2025, spring camps are started. You're going around Houston. You're going to be in Oklahoma soon. Kind of just break down exactly what kind of activity is going to be out there over the next month at high school. Looking at high school prospects.
Yeah, I've talked about it. I've got a list. It's about 20, 30, 40 schools that I'll be, and I won't see all of them, but I'm trying to see as many as I can over the next few weeks. Like you said, going around Houston, want to go see, Ryan Foje, the offensive tackle that 2 months ago nobody was talking about. And now he's the number, 65 overall player in the country for on three, and is just really rapidly kind of moving up, and may end up being the 5-star offensive tackle that OU fans wanted all along, and they just didn't know they already had him. Going to see Courtland Guillory at Klein Oak. It's a really good year in Houston for Oklahoma. Go see Max Granville. There is, Torrey Blaylock. You just go down the list. There's a lot of guys worth watching. Jonah Williams is going to be interesting because obviously with all his baseball obligations, I don't know how much football he'll actually be taking part in this spring. But it's definitely, still want to go down and see him, go down, get in the dirty water in Galveston and go see what Jonah Williams is up to. But should be good. And then obviously get up to Oklahoma. Gonna go, make the usual stops, Jinx, Union, but then we got to go out to Elgin and see Antoni Cade Ogamoro. I mean, there's going to be some unique stops that maybe people don't see from us every year.
Just in terms of, and I know this is something that you hit on with Oklahoma today, Josh, but just in terms of defensive back recruiting, I know that I feel like we've rehashed this every time that we talk to one another, but with Courtland Guillory now in tow, it seems like that picture is becoming a little bit more clear on what Oklahoma wants to do.
Yeah. We after the recruiting report yesterday, and I'd kind of laid it out that it was that corner looked like there was one spot left, and it was going to fall between Tristan Haynes, the corner from Carl Albert, or Kobe Sellers from Pearland Shadow Creek here in Houston. And I got a few calls last night, talked to a few people, and I think I can't tell how much of this is Oklahoma kind of pivoting to Tristan Haynes and how much of this is what I talked about, or alluded to on the recruiting report, where I don't know that visit, the last visit Kobe Sellers took to Oklahoma, I don't know how well that went. I think there were a few questions the family was left with that were kind of open-ended. And so reading that and the way Oklahoma has handled recruiting, I don't know. There's part of me that just thinks Oklahoma has kind of said, we like these bigger, longer corners, the Tristan Haynes kind, the Courtland Guillory, Des Malone, Gentry Williams. You look at that roster, there are very few of the 5'11", 175 high school kids. They're all big, long, kind of zone corners. So I think that may have played into this. I don't know. That's a little bit of me reading. But I have made a change in how I expect the corner class to play out, where I had thought it would be Kobe Sellers joining Courtland Guillory and Malik Hawkins. I now kind of think it's going to be Tristan Haynes, and I think Kobe Sellers may end up at Texas A&M.
Wow. All right. OU camps. I mean, I've seen some guys, posting that they've accepted an invitation to, an elite camp or whatever. When is that? I think July 1. Is that when that starts?
June, right?
Or is it June?
June. It's
okay.
June. There's June.
Yeah, July would be way too late.
6th, 8th, 13th, and then 18th and 20th are the 5 days of camp.
I was also just quickly adding to that, Dominic Williams' little brother, Joshua Williams, who picked up an Oklahoma offer over the weekend. He will be camping at OU this summer. I don't know which camp. I don't think he's decided yet, but just throwing that out there.
And George is saying Dominic will be there in OU Crimson and Cream watching. So
and
that's great.
I will also throw this out there. If Dominic ends up going to LSU, maybe his brother doesn't camp at OU. I would just put that out there.
But yeah, as far as some of the names, I mean, I think one of the more notable ones here as of late is Jonas Williams, the 2026 cornerback that Oklahoma offered a couple of weeks ago now. He has told me he's going to come back down and camp. That's kind of interesting. Like I've said, with the whole Darian Coleman situation, 2026 quarterback, there's a lot. It's kind of like we've been talking about with corner for the last few weeks. It's kind of a deal where Oklahoma's got to decide who they want to be their number one guy, who they're going to focus on, both in who they like the most and who they think they have the best chance of getting, because they've made several offers. Bunch of guys have come in for visits. So now we've got to see kind of what the hierarchy is. But I think if they make the choice that they want it to be Darian Coleman, I don't think they're far away from getting what they want out of that recruitment. At the same time, if they decide Jonas Williams or one of these other guys is going to be their guy, then, we might have a little bit of an interesting summer and fall kind of tracking Oklahoma's 2026 work at quarterback.
All right. Just focus-wise for the – I know there's been some rules changes that head coaches can only do so much stuff, or what was it that we were talking about? You can only have so many coaches at a high school,
if
only one visit or something like that now?
Yeah, if a coach makes a visit, if a university's represented at a school, that's it.
You can't send if Brent Hall goes and visits someone, then Jay Valai can't go back to the same school and watch the same kid.
He can't go any other day. Now, you could go once an hour, Brandon Hall, then Jay Valai, then, you could do that.
And that's
kind of an interesting idea, actually. But whenever the day you step foot on campus, that's the only day you've got.
That's probably a rule that the coaches wanted to see as much as anybody else.
Yeah, 100%.
Which,
and
I mean, I
think it allows them to hit all their targets. They get to go see everybody they want to.
And that is the crazy thing. And I think you've seen coaches kind of raise that. And, you go back to, Nick Saban retiring and saying, I saw where this is going and I just didn't want to be a part of it. Like, the coaches need some type of rules or regulations to take something off their shoulders. It's just like we hate having to do the photo shoots every time the recruits come through here. Like, let's go ahead and outlaw that for everybody because it's a pain in the ass for us all.
Well, I'm just glad that he doesn't have to recruit any corners from the MAC that aren't yet in the portal anymore. That's exciting news for Nick that, he gets to not have to worry about the direction of college football while he leads it.
Yeah, he's not going to be crying. If he's crying, he's going to be crying on television now, making a whole lot of money doing that. It's probably a much easier job
on that. And he was really good. Like I didn't see him or
Belichick, but I heard Belichick was really good.
He was like laughing and stuff. Yeah, what I saw. I thought he was pretty good. He told a couple really good stories.
That's disturbing. Bill Belichick happy is uncomfortable. Like I don't think that's a world I want to live in.
It's kind of like I have a really awkward time just having social interactions with Bob Stoops because it's 20 years of interviewing him and kind of having to be on my toes, like not to ask a stupid question. And now all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, Gary, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Hey, Coach, I don't have any depth charts to ask you about, so I really don't know what to talk to you about." It's very awkward.
Hey, some shots of
maybe
rock
it'll
and roll
get better,
tequila, man. You're gonna be good.
Maybe it'll get better someday. Anyway, other than that, anything just pressing recruiting wise that we need to hit on before we get out of here? Eddie shakes his head. No.
I don't think so. It's like it's kind of a very active period, but also kind of a very quiet period as well. Because it feels like
really is. It's because again, it's a lot of due diligence right now.
Yeah.
They're like we said, they're going out, they're seeing people. Now I will say I don't want to give away everything that was in Woke, but if anybody wants to go to the site, read it. We've got promos going on right now. If you want to go, I have another prediction for an out-of-region offensive lineman that I put in this morning as well in Woke. So go read that, check that out. I hate to tease on the podcast too much, but
hey, I'll give you a promo code, OU1. Put in the promo code OU1. You get 2 months for just $1. Great way to sign up if you've never signed up before. Love to have you. Like we said, tons of recruiting stuff coming. This is just the initial stage of all the big news that's getting ready to set up for recruiting with camps, with visits, with all that stuff. Plus, what's left in the portal. So good time. Promo code OU1. So, yeah, Josh.
And, aside from my stuff, George has been killing it with the portal coverage. I feel like we've had a lot of the, been out in front of a lot of the Damonic Williams stuff. So if you want to know what's going on there, it's a good time as well.
And again, I'm sorry because he can hear this, but Bob has not been killing it with the Porter Moser coverage, but that's not his fault. That's Porter's fault.
That's not on Bob.
And guess what? Right after this, because we got to get out of here, we're going to allow Bob to just go off on Porter Moser during the Stickball Report. Should be fun. Everybody might be an Isaiah Thomas type moment for him. It was Isaiah Thomas's birthday yesterday. Did you know that? What a great guy he is.
Who cares?
I haven't heard any screaming. See, there's Bob Prisbillo. I was trying to draw him out. George, any last parting words for us?
Just buckle up. I think these next 24 hours are going to be interesting. And like I said, if Damonic Williams committed to LSU as soon as we got off this podcast, it would not shock me. It would also not shock me if this thing's, drug out another day or so. So just stay tuned to Soonerscoop.com. Hopefully I'll have an update here sometime this afternoon or evening.
At least the Thunder swept and you don't have to, you don't have any basketball that's going to mess with you.
But I was telling Eddie, it kind of sucks. Like I've been so ready to go, and they've been playing so well that I wish they were just playing right now. You almost don't want the break.
Well, we can spend time scouting the Mavs and the Clippers now.
That's true. I want Luka, though. Give me Luka. I want to take him down, and I want to take all you DFW folks out there down.
All you fake MFFLs.
That is from a man that must not have very many friends from Dallas.
I have a lot of friends from Dallas. That's actually
his brother lives there now.
But yeah, he's a huge Thunder fan, though. But I have a lot of friends from Dallas. That's why I want to beat him.
It is. I'll say this. Brig Bates used to work for us here. He's annoying on Twitter.
He's a moron. Yeah, he's a moron. I know he's listening to this, too. He's a moron.
Love you, Brig, but your Mavs takes, they piss me off, man. stupid tweeting about the Mavs. All right, that's going to do it. We will be back again next week. Don't forget Stickball with Bob Przbillo is coming up as well on the YouTube page. Dylan Gabriel is up now. Go check it out. Recruiting Report is up. So we're going to keep going. Family Business coming up on Thursday with Walter Rouse. So a lot of great programming coming up here from the Sooner Scoop studios on Campus Corner. Until next week, you've been listening to the Unofficial 40 right here on SoonerScoop.com.